Welcome to the Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast, the podcast where we make 5-minute decisions that can change your business, your relationships, and your life. Hey, this is Dean Soto, founder of prosulum.com, prosulum.com, and freedomin5minutes.com. And today we're here with another Freedom in 5 Minutes episode. Today's topic is, why are you not listening to me? That and more coming up. Oh, good morning. Well, it's morning for me at least. Might be something else for you. But, wow, today, beautiful, cold, green, out and about. Go to get me a haircut later today. Gonna be nice. Wow. All I can say is things have been going pretty well. I had an interesting conversation with a prospect yesterday, which leads to the topic of this story about why it's important to shut your mouth, and when you do shut your mouth, why it's important that when someone gives you a signal that you understand and listen to what they're actually saying. So, I'm winded walking up my hill. So I was on a sales call with somebody who potentially wants to get one of my systems and process SOP virtual assistants from prosulum.com, prosulum.com. 5 minutes, they'll duplicate you and your entire team, and you will be free. Okay, the sales pitch. Done with the sales pitch. So I'm talking with her, and we had a great conversation. She was hot to trot, excited, super excited. And it actually ended up lasting about an hour. And then afterward, she basically, there was this one comment that she said, where she said, well, I'm just waiting on a Stripe payment that's going to come through, a big Stripe payment, and then we can move forward. And rather than listen to what that actually meant, I said, okay, yeah, no worries. Actually, you can sign the agreement and move forward, and it'll get the process going. And there's no upfront fee anyway. And so it takes 2 to 4 weeks to even find your virtual assistant. So, once you sign it, you're not going to have to pay. So no worries on that. I just kind of bowled over what she actually said. And so it's been almost 24 hours and the agreement hasn't been signed. That doesn't mean it's not going to. I have a whole follow-up sequence that goes out automatically and everything like that. And a lot of the times the agreements are signed during that time. But I just have this feeling, and I might be right, I might be wrong, but I have this feeling that it might not be signed. And here's why. Is that I didn't really listen. And it's my own fault for not listening, right? So when she said, I'm super excited, I'm just waiting on this Stripe payment, rather than bowling over and going, oh, well, you can do this, I should have sat there and listened and said, okay, yeah, no problem. When is that Stripe payment coming? Because it's more than just a Stripe payment. The reason it's brought up because there's something that is there security-wise, right? If I sign this agreement, I'm going to be locked in, correct? I'm going to be locked in and I'm going to have to pay. And so I want to make sure that I have the money to do so up front, right? Or something of that nature. It's not just that she wants to get a Stripe payment. It doesn't matter if I said, hey, if you sign the agreement now, 3 months later, you'll get a virtual assistant, so no worries. It was more of a It was more of her, she was basically, now that I'm reminiscing on this, she was basically saying, look, I just want to have some amount of security. I want to know that I'm doing the right thing and that I'm able to move forward and it's not going to harm me, my business, my family, and so on. And here I am not listening to that signal, learning from it right now, obviously, but not listening to that signal and basically almost bullying her into signing an agreement, which doesn't feel good for anyone, right? Doesn't feel good at all. So the what's to learn from this is that there's a lot of times that people are sub-communicating something. Human beings are not always super direct, right? Not always super direct. Reason being is because some people are afraid. Nobody wants to say, oh, hey, I think this is really great, but I'm not going to be able to do this now. Or I'm not going to be able to do this until 2 months from now. Being good in sales, part of your job is having a system or something to weed that out or to pull that out of somebody, right? And so when she said that, it was really something that was being communicated in a much more subtle way, right? But I was too stupid, too bullheaded to listen. And part of it is because I have a really big goal for this year, and part of me is part of this whole thing is that there might be some compromising there, right? For her, she actually seems like a great customer and would be perfect, but I can see how not listening, I could end up totally bringing on the wrong customer because of a friggin' target that I have. So had I sat and listened and took the time to understand what she was truly saying, the agreement might not be signed right away, but at least I'll have an indication of when will the agreement be signed? How can I best help you? What is your current situation? What can I do to help you? What do you need in order for me to best serve you? Rather than being selfish and wanting an agreement signed, right? Which doesn't mean anything. Until money's in your hand, it doesn't mean anything. So what in the last week, actually before you get into this, here's the important thing with this is that it's important because there's so many things, whether it's your family, so many people. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your boss, it could be your employees, it could be your customers. They're saying things to you. And on the surface, they might sound like one thing, but actually mean another. Your wife or your husband says, hey, you might be, oh man, you're working a lot, you might want to relax. That doesn't necessarily mean that she just notices or he just notices that you're working a lot. The subcommunication could mean something like, I want to spend more time with you. I want you to spend more time with the family. I wish you would systemize things so that you could spend more time with the family. Maybe it's even, hey, I don't even like the job you're doing because it's taking you away from our family. Maybe you can find another job. Whatever it might be. there's sub-communication there. Same thing with a customer or a client, like especially like an existing client who is reaching out and saying something to you, such as hey, how often do we get to do you follow up with us? How often are we able to get some of your time or something like that? Some communication of that could be something like, hey, we're having issues and we need to talk, and we haven't heard from you for 6, 7, 8 months, and and we're thinking of going with somebody else because of that. I had one client who I had to reach out to. I reached out to and had a follow-up sequence to get them to respond and get on a call so I can see how they were doing, if they needed any help with anything. They went dark and they weren't responding to my emails, and then finally they finally responded. And what happened when they did? What happened when they did was, first they said, "Oh, everything's great. We love it. Yeah, it's good." Then they sent an email literally 10 minutes later saying, "Hey, I do have a question. Are these VAs supposed to be documenting what we're doing?" And and so I responded, I'm like, "Yeah. What do you mean? Are you just training them, or are you having them do the documentation?" And it got into this whole conversation about them basically having to tell their VA. Their VA who was brand new, and a big part of this was on my staff because they're supposed to be checking the documentation, and then I'm supposed to be making sure that things are going smoothly and stuff. That was part of my thing was, basically if I wasn't checking in with the customer, this wouldn't have happened and we wouldn't have known about this. And likewise, if I was lackadaisical, my guys should normally catch this stuff because they're working with the virtual assistant in general, right? But luckily, because of the holidays, because of a bunch of unforeseen issues and stuff, this almost fell through the cracks. And so we literally had to train the VA and also train the client to say, hey, look, whenever you're teaching her something, you need to have a place for her to put documents, because they didn't even have that. You need to have a place to put documents. You need to have subfolders, Google Docs, things like that. And don't just train. Make sure that when you give it to her, that you tell her this needs to be a process document and where to put it as well. And likewise, on the VA, on the virtual assistant end, we said, hey, you need to anytime they are giving you a video, you have to create a process document out of it and ask where to put it, or put it where you think it's supposed to go. But unless they explicitly say this does not have to be put into a process document and created into a process document, unless they specifically say that, you need to do it. And so it was through that. It was through reaching out and bugging my client, and them with even with their sub-communication of not talking, of going dark, of going black. There's a sub-communication in that. We're not happy. Even if we say we're happy, we're not happy because it's not what you promised. And why is it not what you promised? Because there is a miscommunication or something's not happening. And had we not caught that sub-communication, and luckily had systems to make it so these customers to make it so that these customers were constantly communicated with, we could have potentially lost a customer who's growing and who will eventually need more virtual assistants and more virtual assistants. So even through their silence, even through that, there's sub-communication. So what is it right now that you're not hearing? your wife going silent, your husband going silent, your kids going silent, your kids saying something and really saying something deeper, your clients not saying something, or they are saying something and are communicating something deeper. What is it? Think about one situation where you have it in your gut that something is not all, it's not, what's on the surface is not just it. Take action on that one thing. If it's somebody who you can reach out to and actually start the conversation with, say, hey, honey, or hey, Steve, my client, I haven't heard from you in a while, and I wanted to check in and see how everything was going, and check in until they respond. Or, hey, Steve, you mentioned last week, or you mentioned 2 months ago, this thing, and I just had a feeling that there was maybe something more to it, and maybe I missed. I want to make sure that I'm hearing you and that everything's good. What's that one thing right now that you know in your gut, that one person or that one incident or even right now, there's something going on where you just know in your gut that there's something more? Reach out to that person this week. Reach out to that person this week and just see if you can go a little deeper and see if there was something more that they were trying to communicate that you really, truly weren't listening to. All right, so this is Dean Soto, freedomin5minutes.com. Go check that out. You get 7 free episodes there, hidden episodes that you'll never, ever find. They're so raw, they have no introduction. That's how raw they are, but they're still amazing. And then on top of that, if you want a virtual assistant that will create SOPs for you in 5 minutes per process, and then actually do the process so you never, ever have to do it again, go to www.prosulum.com, prosulum.com. All right, I will see you guys. It was fun, and I will see you guys in the next Freedom in 5 Minutes episode.